those who are not familiar with what Shelter Afrique does, what exactly do you do?
Well, in simple terms, Larry, Shelter Afrique is a developmental financial institution that's been established 38 years ago, basically to focus on funding affordable housing on the whole African continent.
Right.
We do it in two ways. On the supply side of housing, we support through public-private partnerships developers that want to build housing on a large scale, but they must be affordable, $30,000 or less. And then on the demand side, we provide lines of credit to banks across all the African states that we represent, so that they can now actually be able to provide mortgage loans longer term to improve affordability.
So you do projects like these all around Africa?
No, 100%. We're all around Africa.
Why are there so few mortgages on the continent?
I think when it comes to mortgages on the continent, the challenge is, if you look at the banks, they receive deposits, which is short. And when you do a mortgage, you have to lend long.
Right.
So that is the first part of the problem. So there are fewer banks reluctant to issue mortgages. The other issue is banks within their treasury have an option between whether to take money into a mortgage or to put it into an unsecured microloan.
Right.
You'll find that they make more interest income through microloans, which is consumption lending and not mortgage lending.
That's where you come in, because you're making houses available for people who would otherwise either not qualify for a mortgage,
exactly,
or just can't afford it.
Yeah, and what we also do is we encourage the formation of mortgage refinance companies. What these companies do now is they lend to those local banks and give them assurance that when they lend, to the affordable housing market, that effectively their lending is insured.
Almost every African government has a plan for mass housing, but few of them succeed.
Firstly, you need the political will to drive affordable housing in any government. And then secondly, you need, they say you put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
If you're speaking affordable housing, then you need to increase the budgeting for affordable housing so that it is given the fair share. Now, the countries that succeed, they have a plan in terms of they provide the land in a public-private partnership. They also provide the infrastructure. Then you find a private developer comes and then builds the house. Why is that important? It's because the infrastructure and the land alone can even account for 40 to 50% of the actual total cost of the house. So to improve affordability, you need a partnership between government and private sector.
So African governments can't build all the houses that their citizens need?
Naturally, the resources are limited. What is very important, and that's where Shelter Afrique comes in, is we try to find ways to leverage, to catalyze other investors into any project so that we can assist the government. So for instance, when our member states put in the additional $260 million we're expecting, we can leverage another $1 billion so that we can go further, and we go further.
So Africa has a housing shortage of 51 million units.
51 million units.
That is a big number.
Yeah.
Will we ever get to the point where most of that has been met?
Well, I would hope in my lifetime we would. But what I would like to say is that we will definitely get to a point where, with the right political will, the right funding partnership, and also the conviction that we want to change the face of Africa, we should be able to reduce that shortage substantially.
Where is the most pressing need for housing on the continent?
Yeah, well, sadly, Larry, you'll find that of that 51 million shortage, every African state does require housing, but when you look at quantum, 70 million units and above is the shortage in Nigeria.
Right.
So it's the most pressing. If you go down to, say, countries with more than 3 million shortage, you find there's Tanzania and the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Then when you go down to the 2 million shortage, you see Kenya is pressing, you see Madagascar is pressing, you see South Africa, though they're not a member, is also pressing, you see. So that's how it works. And then we go down, we look at all the other countries. So every single member state has a shortage, but what we then try to do is we look at those that, of course, have the political will, they have the right legislation, and most importantly, the enabling environment that allows us to be able to participate.
You haven't really been funding any new projects since 2016, so
Yeah.
you're not helping that much.
Yeah, so since 2016, what we were going through is a reorganization, a restructure within the company. We wanted to improve the governance. When companies and countries want to put money into an entity, it needs to be properly governed. That's what we spent the last time doing, but I'm pleased to say that in 2018, coming into 2019, we've launched about 4 projects and we're going into it aggressively. We had to go back and say what is the right strategy that can give us the right impact in terms of reducing the shortage we spoke about. Then we realized that on the supply side, we can't do it alone. We can't go and do 100% of the projects. That limits us and limits our developmental impact. So what we've decided to do is we work with public-private partnerships. Governments bring in land, some infrastructure, then we bring in that catalytic funding. Some will call it junior debt or equity, to allow the big financiers now to come in with mezzanine debt or senior debt. So we do the whole structuring so that we come up with successful projects like you see behind us.
You're doing that now. You're back to underwriting new projects, but you're not yet profitable. In fact, the runway until you're profitable is still a long way off. When will Shelter Afrique go back to making money?
We believe that by 2019 we are breaking even, and then by 2020 we should start getting into becoming profitable, and then by 2025 we should be viable financially.
All right, that's a good place to end it. Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Larry.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.